Now let's go ahead and let's make use of the packages which we have installed, and let's go ahead use that to convert this HTML document into a PDF. So let's hop back to our code right here, and we will go to the views.py file right over here. And even before we start writing some code in here, let's first go ahead and import a bunch of packages in here. So the very first package is obviously going to be PDFKit. So I'll simply type in import PDFKit, as we now have it downloaded and installed. And then we will need to go ahead and also import HTTP response as well. So I'll say from Django.http import, that's going to be HTTP response. And we will also go ahead and import a template loader as well. So I'll say from Django.template import loader. And another thing which we need to import is IO. So I'll say import IO, and we are good to go. Okay, so now as we actually want to go ahead and make use of the template and instead create a PDF out of it, the very first thing which we do is that we actually get that specific template. So right now, as you can see, we have directly passed that template over here. So instead of that, we will use the loader to actually load up the template and save it into some sort of a variable. So I'll say something like template equals, and then I'll say loader.get underscore template. And in order to get that template, I simply need to pass its path over here. So I'll say pdf/resume.html. And after that, once we have this particular template, I'll go ahead and render this template by passing in the context. So right now, when we load this template is going to be just empty, and it won't have any kind of context. That is, it won't have any kind of dynamic data, that is the user data. Now, in order to pass in the user data, I'll say HTML equals template.render. And while rendering this template, we make sure to pass in the context. So this thing right here is nothing but our context. So I'll simply go ahead and paste that thing up over here. And for now, you can completely ignore this line because we are going to modify this later. So this is what we are doing for right now. And now the reason why we have actually extracted this template and we have used the loader to get template, and we have used this HTML variable to actually store the render template is because now we need to pass in this particular render template to the PDFKit library which we had installed in the prior lecture. So now let's go ahead and use that PDF library. So I'll say PDF equals, that's going to be PDFKit dot, and we will use the from string method. So what this from string method does is that it takes an HTML string and it converts that HTML string into a PDF document. So I'll say from underscore string, and then it actually needs to accept the HTML string. So we already have this HTML string created for us, which is nothing but our render template. So I'll need to pass in that thing over here. So I'll say HTML. Then it needs to accept a parameter, which is going to be false for our specific case. And in here, we need to pass in something which is called as options. And now these options are not actually defined, but they are the options which define the layout of our PDF page. So for example, we can go ahead and define the page size and the encoding of that specific page. So let's specify those options over here. So I'll say options equals, and let's say the page size is going to be, let's say, letter. That means it's going to be a PDF of a size of a letter. And the encoding is going to be, let's say, UTF-8. And once we have these things, we have specifically set those options to render that particular HTML page. And now, after actually having that HTML page rendered and passed it over here, PDFKit is actually going to convert that HTML page into a specific PDF. Now once we have this PDF, we now want this PDF to be automatically downloaded. So for that, we need to enlist a few more options. So the very first thing which we need to do is that we need to get rid of all the things which we are returning here, and instead we will go ahead and return a specific response for this. So I'll simply go ahead and type in response, And we have not yet created this response as of now. So let's go ahead and create this response. So I'll say response equals HTTP response. And in here, we actually want to return a PDF in this particular HTTP response. So I'll say PDF, which is nothing but this parameter right here. And then we also need to specify the type of the content which this HTTP response needs to deliver. So I'll say content underscore type, and this is going to be nothing but application slash PDF. So once we have that thing, we now need to mention that we want to make this PDF downloadable. So we need to set a few response parameters as well. So I'll say something like response of content dash disposition, and this is going to say something like attachment, because this is going to be a PDF attachment. And then we need to specify the name of the file of our PDF. So I'll say file name equals, and that's going to be, let's say, resume.pdf. And then we finally have this thing. We go ahead and return this specific response. So now once we have that, we are pretty much good to go. So now let's see if this thing works when we go ahead and say /1 to download this specific document. So let me go back over here, and first of all I need to fire up the server. So python 3 manage.py run server, and now let's get back and let's hit refresh, and now let me just type in /1, and we do have an error over here. Okay, so I guess we have misspelled encoding. This should be encoding. So extremely sorry for that. And now once we go ahead, hit refresh and type in /1, our PDF should be downloaded over here. And as you can see, we have our PDF downloaded over here. So when I simply go ahead and open this thing up, as you can see, now we have this CV generated over here in a PDF format. And now, as you can see, we have this particular response not in a form of a HTML page, but instead it's actually a PDF which is automatically downloaded to your computer at this specific path. That means we successfully went ahead and created a PDF out of the data which was stored in our database. So the same logic can actually be used to create PDFs of different sorts. So if you want to go ahead and create invoice for your specific web app, you can go ahead and make use of the same logic and same steps to generate PDF out of the data which is stored in your database. So now let's try to go ahead and add another data over here. So let's say the name of the person is Jim. Let's say the email address is demo@demo.com, and let's say the phone number is some random number like 999999. Let's say it says something like this is Jim. Let's say the degree is BTech. Let's say the school is XYZ School of Science. Let's say the university is MIT. Let's say previous work is worked as a programmer at company X. Let's say skills are Python, Django, and JavaScript. So let's go ahead, submit this data, and as you can see, the data is submitted. Now let's get the specific ID of this person. So let me go to admin and see what kind of objects do we have saved in our backend. Okay, so if we go to profiles, as you can see, we only have 2 profiles. So now if I go ahead and if I want to download data for gyms, I can go ahead and say /2, hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and download the CV for me. So when I open this thing up, as you can see, now we have the CV for gym, which has all the details listed up over here. So in the next lecture, what we can do is that we can go ahead and tweak up this particular HTML document a little bit to make it look a little bit better. And after doing that, we will also go ahead and create a page which is going to list out all the candidates which we actually have in our database, so that the user does not have to manually go ahead and type in the URL/1 or URL/2 to download the respective resumes. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.